I want to talk to you today about something that genuinely matters for a great many older adults' hearts and lives, and where there's been an enormous amount of confusion, changing advice, and oversimplification over the years. What to eat for healthy arteries, the diet that helps keep your arteries clear and protects against the artery disease that leads to heart attacks and strokes. Because few areas of health advice have been more confusing, with decades of shifting messages about fat, cholesterol, eggs, and the rest, leaving people genuinely unsure what to eat for their arteries, and much of what people believe is outdated or oversimplified. So today I want to clear up the common misconceptions about eating for your arteries, explain what the evidence now broadly supports, move past the old fat and cholesterol oversimplifications to the bigger picture, and help you eat in a way that genuinely protects your arteries in partnership with your doctor. And I'll keep this calm and practical, because while this is genuinely important and has been confusingly presented, the broad evidence-based picture of eating for healthy arteries is actually fairly clear, and very much something you can act on. And remember, diet supports but doesn't replace your doctor's care and any medication. Let me start with what artery disease is, because understanding it shows why diet matters. The arteries are the vessels that carry blood from your heart to the rest of your body, and artery disease, atherosclerosis, is the process where the arteries become narrowed and hardened by the buildup of fatty deposits, plaques in their walls over many years. This is the underlying process behind most heart attacks and strokes. When these plaques narrow the arteries, or rupture, and cause clots, they can block the blood supply to the heart, causing a heart attack, or to the brain, causing a stroke. The process is gradual and silent, building over decades, which is why what you eat over the years genuinely matters, because diet influences this artery clogging process, for better or worse. So artery disease is the silent, gradual buildup of fatty plaques, narrowing the arteries, the cause of most heart attacks and strokes, and diet genuinely influences it, which is exactly why eating for healthy arteries matters so much. Understanding that you're trying, through diet, to slow and not worsen this gradual artery clogging process over years frames everything that follows. So understanding artery disease shows why diet matters for it. So the artery clogging process is what diet influences. Let me address the big source of confusion, the changing story about fat and cholesterol. For decades, the message was often reduced to avoiding fat and dietary cholesterol, which led to a lot of confusion and some oversimplification, including fear of all fats and of foods like eggs. The understanding has been refined considerably, and here's the broad picture as it now stands. Not all fats are the same. The harmful ones for arteries are largely the trans fats, now widely reduced but worth avoiding, and, to a debated degree, large amounts of saturated fat, found in fatty and processed meats, full-fat dairy, and many processed foods, while unsaturated fats, found in olive oil, nuts, seeds, and oily fish, are actually beneficial for the heart and arteries. So the old blanket message to avoid all fat was an oversimplification. What matters more is the type of fat, favouring healthy unsaturated fats over trans fats, and limiting excess saturated fat. And on dietary cholesterol, like that in eggs, the understanding has shifted, with dietary cholesterol now thought to matter less for most people than once believed, so the old fear of eggs has eased for most. So the key correction on fat and cholesterol is that it's the type of fat that matters. Favour healthy unsaturated fats, avoid trans fats, limit excess saturated fat, rather than fearing all fat or dietary cholesterol, which moves past the old oversimplifications. So the type of fat, not all fat, is the refined understanding. So nuance about fat replaces the old blanket fear. Let me give you the bigger, more important picture. Because, as with blood pressure, the overall eating pattern matters more than any single nutrient. The most important thing modern understanding emphasizes is that, rather than fixating on single nutrients like fat or cholesterol, what protects your arteries is the overall pattern of eating, and the evidence broadly supports a pattern rich in whole, minimally processed plant foods and healthy fats and proteins. Specifically, eating patterns that protect the arteries emphasize plenty of vegetables and fruits, whole grains rather than refined ones, beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds, healthy fats like olive oil, fish, especially oily fish, and limited red and processed meat, sugary foods and drinks, refined carbohydrates, and highly processed foods. Eating patterns along these lines like the well-studied Mediterranean-style pattern, are genuinely associated with healthier arteries and lower heart and stroke risk. These patterns work through many mechanisms together: healthy fats, fiber, beneficial plant compounds, less harmful processed food, and their effects on cholesterol, blood pressure, inflammation, and weight. So the bigger and more important picture is that a whole food, largely plant-rich pattern with healthy fats and fish, and less processed and red meat and sugar, and refined carbohydrates is what genuinely protects the arteries, far more than fixating on any single nutrient. So the overall healthy eating pattern is the central evidence-based key. So the whole pattern, not single nutrients, protects arteries. Let me highlight a few specific beneficial elements because they're worth knowing within the pattern. First, fiber, found in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, and legumes, is genuinely good for the heart and arteries, helping with cholesterol and overall heart health, so a fiber-rich diet protects the arteries. Second, oily fish, like salmon, mackerel, and sardines, provides beneficial fats associated with heart health, so including fish, especially oily fish, is beneficial. Third, healthy fats from olive oil, nuts and seeds support heart and artery health, replacing harmful fats. Fourth, vegetables and fruits provide beneficial compounds, fiber, and nutrients that protect the arteries. And fifth, reducing the harmful elements, trans fats, excess saturated fat, sugary foods and drinks, refined carbohydrates, processed foods, and excess salt, which I've discussed for blood pressure, protects the arteries too. So within the healthy pattern, fiber-rich plant foods, oily fish, healthy fats from olive oil, nuts and seeds, and plenty of vegetables and fruits are particularly beneficial. While trans fats, excess saturated fat, sugar, refined carbohydrates and processed foods are the things to limit. So knowing the beneficial and harmful elements helps you build the artery protecting pattern. So specific good and bad elements fill in the pattern. Let me explain why eating this way matters so much, because the stakes are high and the benefits real. Eating for healthy arteries matters enormously because artery disease, the gradual clogging of the arteries, is the underlying cause of most heart attacks and strokes, which are leading causes of death and disability. And diet genuinely influences this process over the years, so what you eat can help slow the artery clogging and reduce your risk of these devastating events. A genuinely healthy eating pattern, alongside the other heart-protecting measures, and your doctor's care, can meaningfully reduce cardiovascular risk. And it does so while also benefiting your blood pressure, cholesterol, weight, blood sugar, and overall health, so it's powerfully worthwhile. And it's never too late to benefit, since improving your diet helps your arteries and heart health at any age. So eating for healthy arteries matters because diet influences the artery clogging process behind most heart attacks and strokes, because a healthy pattern can meaningfully reduce that risk, and because it benefits your whole health, all of which make understanding and applying the evidence-based pattern genuinely worthwhile, rather than being paralyzed by the old, confusing, oversimplified messages. So the high stakes and real, broad benefits make eating well for your arteries truly worthwhile. So diet genuinely influences your artery and heart risk. Let me be clear about how this works with your doctor and the rest of heart care, because diet is part of a bigger picture. Eating for healthy arteries is a powerful lever, but it works alongside, not instead of, the other heart-protecting measures in your doctor's care. So alongside a healthy diet, don't smoke, which is one of the most damaging things for the arteries. Stay physically active, which protects the arteries and heart. Manage your blood pressure, cholesterol, weight, and any diabetes with your doctor. And take any heart protective medications, like those for cholesterol or blood pressure, consistently as prescribed, never stopping them on your own on the strength of dietary changes, but discussing any adjustments with your doctor. If you have heart disease, high cholesterol, diabetes, or other conditions, your doctor or a dietitian can help tailor your eating to your situation. And have your relevant numbers, like cholesterol and blood pressure, monitored. So eat for your arteries as a powerful lever, but alongside not smoking, activity, managing your risk factors and conditions, taking medications as prescribed, and your doctor's care, tailoring your diet with your doctor or a dietitian as needed. So diet is a powerful part of, but works within, comprehensive heart care. So combine the artery-protecting diet with the rest of heart care. Let me paint you a picture of how getting past the confusion helps. Picture a man in his 70s who, after decades of changing dietary messages, is confused and somewhat paralyzed about what to eat for his arteries. He fears all fat and avoids eggs based on old advice, yet eats plenty of processed foods, refined carbohydrates, sugary snacks and red and processed meat, and few vegetables, fruits or whole grains. So despite his fat-fearing efforts, his diet isn't actually protecting his arteries. In the confused version, he's fixated on the wrong things and missing the bigger picture. Now picture him understanding the evidence-based pattern. He stops fearing all fat and eggs, instead favouring healthy fats like olive oil, nuts and oily fish, while limiting trans and excess saturated fat. He fills his plate with vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans and legumes, rich in fibre and beneficial compounds, and he cuts down on processed foods, refined carbohydrates, sugary snacks, and red and processed meat. Alongside, he doesn't smoke, stays active, and manages his cholesterol and blood pressure with his doctor. His eating genuinely protects his arteries now, helping slow the clogging process and reducing his risk and benefiting his whole health. The same man, but eating the evidence-based way for his arteries, rather than fixating on outdated single-nutrient fears, genuinely protected his heart. That contrast is exactly why getting past the confusion to the real pattern matters so much. So the evidence-based pattern genuinely protected his arteries. And let me speak directly to those of you caring for or close to an older person, because eating for healthy arteries genuinely helps and the confusion is real. Understand that what protects the arteries is the overall eating pattern, rich in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, legumes, nuts, healthy fats like olive oil, and oily fish, with less processed food, red and processed meat, sugar, and refined carbohydrates, and that it's the type of fat that matters, favouring healthy unsaturated fats, not fearing all fat or eggs, moving past the old oversimplifications. You can help by supporting this pattern, cooking with healthy fats like olive oil, offering plenty of vegetables, fruits, whole grains and beans, including oily fish, and reducing processed foods, sugary snacks, refined carbohydrates, and red and processed meat. You can support the other heart measures, not smoking, activity, and managing blood pressure, cholesterol, weight and diabetes with the doctor. Encourage taking heart medications as prescribed, never stopping them on their own, and a dietitian can help tailor the eating. Helping a loved one eat the full evidence-based way for their arteries, past the old confusing single-nutrient fears, alongside the other heart measures and their doctor's care, can genuinely help protect their arteries and their whole health. So your support for the artery-protecting pattern genuinely helps their heart. Let me draw this all together. What to eat for healthy arteries has been one of the most confusingly presented areas of health, with decades of changing, oversimplified messages about fat and cholesterol. But the broad evidence-based picture is actually fairly clear. Artery disease, the gradual silent clogging of the arteries with fatty plaques, is the cause of the most heart attacks and strokes, and diet genuinely influences it over the years. The old blanket fear of all fat and of dietary cholesterol was an oversimplification. It's the type of fat that matters. Favour healthy unsaturated fats from olive oil, nuts and oily fish. Avoid trans fats and limit excess saturated fat, while dietary cholesterol like that in eggs matters less for most people than once feared. But the most important thing is the overall pattern. A whole food, largely plant-rich pattern, with plenty of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, legumes, nuts and seeds, healthy fats, and fish, and less processed food, red and processed meat, sugar, and refined carbohydrates like the Mediterranean-style pattern, genuinely protects the arteries through fibre, healthy fats, beneficial compounds, and effects on cholesterol, blood pressure, inflammation, and weight. This matters because diet influences the artery clogging behind most heart attacks and strokes, can meaningfully reduce that risk, and benefits whole body health. But it works alongside not smoking, activity, managing risk factors, and your doctor's care and any medication. So here's what I'll leave you with. First, understand that artery disease, the gradual silent clogging of the arteries, causes most heart attacks and strokes, and that diet genuinely influences it over the years, so eating for healthy arteries truly matters. Second, get past the old fat and cholesterol oversimplifications. It's the type of fat that matters, so favour healthy unsaturated fats from olive oil, nuts, seeds, and oily fish. Avoid trans fats and limit excess saturated fat from fatty and processed meats and full-fat dairy, rather than fearing all fat, and don't fear eggs and dietary cholesterol as much as old advice suggested. Third, and most importantly, focus on the overall pattern. Eat plenty of vegetables and fruits, whole grains rather than refined, beans, legumes, nuts and seeds, healthy fats, and fish, especially oily fish, while limiting red and processed meat, sugary foods and drinks, refined carbohydrates, and highly processed foods. A pattern like the Mediterranean-style one that genuinely protects the arteries. Fourth, favour the particularly beneficial elements. Fibre-rich plant foods, oily fish, healthy fats, and plenty of produce, and limit the harmful ones, trans and excess saturated fat, sugar, refined carbohydrates, processed foods, and excess salt. And fifth, eat for your arteries as a powerful lever alongside, not instead of the other heart measures, not smoking. Activity, managing blood pressure, cholesterol, weight and diabetes, and your doctor's care and any medication, which you should never stop on your own, tailoring your diet with your doctor or a dietitian as needed. Eating the full evidence-based way for your arteries, past the old confusion, can genuinely help protect against heart attacks and strokes and benefit your whole health at any age, so it's well worth understanding the real pattern. So take care of yourself, eat the artery-protecting pattern, get past the old single nutrient fears, and support it with the rest of heart care. And because managing your heart risk and tailoring your diet, especially with conditions or medications, require a doctor, please treat eating for your arteries as a powerful lever to apply alongside your own physician's care and any prescribed treatment, rather than as a substitute for that care, and never stop heart medication on your own.